So let's move further in this third part to understand the specificity of international human resources management. And we will do so by addressing the issue of the skills and abilities required to be an international manager. Usually those are composed of two parts. One is the skills and abilities necessary to do the job. So clearly we need to find people who are technically, functionally, or managerially adequate to the role, and we'll be able to perform positively. We don't want to get people who are not bringing the adequate value on the basis of the processes and roles we have designed. But at the same time, it's equally important to think to hire somebody who has skills and abilities that are required to work in a foreign location, like, some location-specific language skills like language, a particular cultural adaptability, people who can really make it work, and personal characteristics that allow them to operate with people from a very different background, almost effortlessly. Managing both is a necessity when we are managing employees for global assignment, obviously. We know, though, that despite the fact that we know what is needed, the selection is usually quite complex, and the failure is very high. The spectral failure, by the way, is extremely expensive to company. According to some research, the cost of failure of an expatriate ranges between $40,000 to $150,000. That's really a lot of money, and it comes with the added problem that we have somebody who used to be successful, he is not successful, or she's not successful anymore, so we are losing also human capital there. We need to be careful then in understanding who we want to choose. One of the problems usually is that when we go on foreign assignment, we experience cultural shock, which is a phenomenon that may lead to fear, helplessness, irritability, and drains emotional energies from our activity to managing this kind of discomfort that we do feel. So that's why we tend to think that companies need to be very careful in helping people through the 4 phases of acculturation as they have been described. So the first one is honeymoon. First days you are in a different country, it's great, excitement, new places, something I've never seen before, and you think, after all, it's not going to be hard to adjust. After a while, you start seeing that there are major differences also on issues that are important to you. So that's not only for you, it's also for family, your relevant others, and at some point you might develop some very bad reaction against some characteristics of the local culture, which lead to disillusionment. After time, only when you are keeping up with living in that culture and you start to make sense of what happens around you, we move to adaptation that allow people to be successfully part of that culture. And finally, once you function properly in a specific country, you can develop what is called biculturalism, which means that you have ended the anxiety connected with working and living in a different country. This process is very complex, and all people in the family need to go through that, which is a major factor affecting failure. Because maybe the manager is going through that, but not necessarily the case for her kids or her husband or his wife or whatever. So actually, that's exactly one of the reasons. Most of the time, the failure seems to be connected to the family, not to the manager per se, because after all, you are on a very interesting new role, so you're very much committed to performing well. But for other people, it's a different story, and they might not be happy with that different story. So the other side of the, let's say, adaptation issue and expatriation issue is repatriation, because interestingly, the same processes that people go through when they expatriate tend to be in place when they repatriate, because there's again another kind of shock that makes it very difficult for people to go back to their old routines or old culture, and it takes time to adjust to that because, you know, people have changed, they've been away and they're coming back, and, you know, it's as if they have gone into time traveling, and therefore this brings other issues that need to be dealt with by companies. So we have seen the process of expatriation, repatriation, and how acculturation plays a major role. That's something that needs to be carefully planned and designed by organizations. Okay.